trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
It had long been considered Latin America's most troubled country, a place where there's been violence for 50 years. Wars against Marxist guerrillas, the best-known group the FARC, a conflict in which an estimated 200,000 people died and hundreds were taken hostage. Wars too against drugs barons. Colombia's the world's biggest source of cocaine. Colombia received billions of dollars of support from the US, as well as hardware and plenty of military advisors. Central in fighting these wars, Juan Manuel Santos. He was defense minister and then was elected as president in 2010. But then he surprised everyone, including his predecessor and mentor, former President Alvaro Uribe, by opening peace talks with the FARC. Colombia is certainly now a much more peaceful place, and earlier this year Santos was rewarded by the electorate with a second term. But the peace talks have dragged on, and some believe a final deal will still be difficult. Today, on Talk to Al Jazeera, we ask Colombia's president whether he can complete his country's transition. Could there be a risk of a return to the days of kidnap and conflict? And how does he intend to deal with the country's underlying problem, the huge gap between rich and poor? President Santos, thank you for joining us on Talk to Al Jazeera. Can I start by asking you, you're sitting here with me and you have a dove on your lapel. I believe you've been wearing it since your election campaign. Are you now a dove or are you a hawk?
Both. Both, because we continue the military offensive. There's no ceasefire, because I've said there will not be any ceasefire until we reach an agreement on all the points that we have agreed to negotiate. And a dove, because I want peace very much, and we are accelerating as much as possible the process in order to end the conflict as soon as possible.
Let me take you back 50 years of bloodshed and war in your country. How bad had things got in Colombia?
Well, very bad, because we have more than 220,000 people dead, more than 6 million victims, people displaced, and it's a war of 50 years that has had a very, very heavy toll on the Colombian society. But fortunately, after many attempts to reach some kind of peace, this is the first time that we really have an opportunity. We have advanced much, much more than any other attempt. I think the circumstances are present for the first time, and that's why I'm cautiously but optimistic about the future of this peace process.
You used to be seen as the hardline defense minister, then you became the president. Why did you decide to launch this peace effort?
You don't make war for the sake of war. I had to make war, and I did it very effectively. But you fight for an objective. And any soldier or any statesman should have peace as the ultimate objective, as the highest value of your society. And especially a country that has been at war for 50 years, peace should be the objective of everybody. And many times you have to make war before you reach the conditions to allow peace to prevail.
Negotiations ongoing in Havana. Are you beginning to build some trust between the two sides?
I think yes. I think we have advanced a lot. Of course, 50 years of war creates many wounds, creates a lack of trust. But slowly, I think we have been giving signals both ways of a real political will to find peace, and that's why I think we have been able to make progress.
Tell me what progress you have made at this stage.
Well, first we negotiated secretly the agenda. That in any peace process is almost 50% of a negotiation. the 5 points. We negotiated 5 points that we have to agree on those points to end the conflict. Out of those 5 points, we have already agreed 3 of them. So we are, if you apply the arithmetic, we are more than 60% advanced in the peace process. These points are programs for rural development, because the conflict is a rural conflict, and the poverty and the inequality is concentrated in the rural areas. Second is political participation, open up more our democracy, give space to sectors that have felt that they don't have enough representation. Third, a very important point, drug trafficking, how to collaborate the both parties to eradicate something that has caused tremendous problems and many suffering and many deaths in Colombia. And not only in Colombia, the region and the whole world, because Colombia has been the most important provider of cocaine to the world for the last 35 years. And those 3 points we have already agreed. There are 2 points left. One is what we call victims and transitional justice. And there, at this very moment, we are doing something unprecedented. We are taking the victims to speak to both parties, to express their anxieties, their expectations, their suffering, because their rights have to be taken into account in the solution of this conflict. The right of the victims to justice, to the truth, to reparations. Those rights must be addressed and must be taken care of. And so we are taking the victims to allow them directly to tell both parties how they see a solution to this conflict. And the 5th point is what they call DDR, which is
Disarmament.
Demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration. And so those are the 2 points left. If we finish, the conflict is over, and then we will together start what I call the real construction of peace.
So the 3 deals you've already got, at first you kept them secret, now you've made them public. Why?
Yes, because first we decided to make them confidential to protect the process, and we established a condition that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. So we decided that it would be better to keep them confidential. But the enemies of the process, and we have quite a few enemies of the process, strangely enough, because
including your predecessor doesn't like the process.
My predecessor, yes. They started saying that we were negotiating all kinds of outrageous things, and people started to get scared. They did that deliberately, to plant false rumors, false information, to poison the process. So we said the best thing for transparency, to have more transparency, and to simply tell the public opinion, national and international, let's publish what we have agreed, the 3 points, and that's what we decided to do.
Yes. How long is this going to take? You said originally months, not years. It's now years.
I said I would hope months. I never put a time limit, because all my advisors that have been helping me, that have had real experience in negotiating peace processes, have said, don't put any time limits, because that will be counterproductive. It will backfire. And when I said I hope months, and I still hope that months and not years, because the sooner we end this conflict, more lives will be saved, more suffering will be saved. So I hope that we can end these 2 items within months. I would say that by the middle of next year, hopefully this will be over.
And how do you win over the public? Because the latest opinion poll I saw showed 53% were opposed to the process that you were engaged in.
They're not opposed to the process. More than 70% of the people support the peace process. But the information that has been given to many people, the false information, have created some kind of skepticism. And fortunately, what we have experienced lately, and this is one of the reasons why we made the agreements public, is that when you explain exactly what is happening and give them the truth, people will immediately support with much more enthusiasm than what they had supported before, because they were still reluctant because of the doubts that they had. I've been accused of giving the country to communism, that the FARC will take over, that I'm going to expropriate all the land around the cities, that I'm going to put the police under the orders of the FARC commander, that the army is going to disappear. None of that is true. It's complete nonsense. But a lot of people thought it might be true because of the people who were saying that. But now, fortunately, we have the truth down open in a transparent way, and so I am sure that more and more people will support this.
Let me ask you about those two outstanding areas. Are you going to make sure that people who are responsible for crimes, for murders and kidnapping, pay for those crimes? And what about the possibility of an amnesty, and what about the future of FARC? Could it become a political party?
Amnesty for everybody is impossible in today's world. We are part of the Treaty of Rome, of the International Court of Justice. So the people who are responsible for crimes against humanity and war crimes will be judged.
In The Hague or in Colombia?
No. We have to in Colombia, and we have to agree on that issue particularly. So we cannot agree, or we cannot even talk about amnesty. This is something of the past. In today's world, this is impossible. But we can talk about transitional justice. What type of punishment will they have, and how will they pay? This is what transitional justice is all about. And the FARC becoming a political party, of course, because that's the whole purpose of the peace process, for them to lay down their arms and continue to pursue their political objectives, but through legal and democratic means, without violence and without arms.
What about the rest of the violence in your country? Your country is still not a safe country. The US government still has a travel warning in Colombia.
Yes, I spoke to Vice President Biden a few days ago about this. Many of our cities are safer than cities in the US. Why do we still have a travel warning? Well, we still have problems, of course. But we have the lowest homicide rate in the last 40 years. Kidnappings are the lowest level.
But there are still a lot of kidnappings, aren't there?
Not many. Many more kidnappings in other countries of the region, but much more. The thing is that we still live out of the situation of the past. We are not paradise. We have problems, security problems, but we have improved tremendously. We have improved so much that today we are, for example, our tourism, international tourism to Colombia is growing twice the rate of growth in the world. People are going more and more to Colombia, and they're seeing that Colombia is improving tremendously in security, in the security front. A city like Medellin, who was some years ago considered hell because of the Medellin cartel, the drug trafficking, and the violence, today is one of the most sought upon cities in the whole of the Latin American region.
But there are still trouble spots, aren't there? I was reading a really disturbing report by Human Rights Watch from earlier in the year about Buenaventura, your port on the Pacific, about abductions, about people being dismembered in chop shops. This is really grim.
Well, these are problems that we do have. We don't deny that there are problems, but never the problems that we had before. The magnitude and the number of crimes and the regions with problems have been reducing tremendously. We still have problems, but for example, the U.S. just yesterday gave us their blessing on the human rights policy, saying that Colombia is an example of how to improve respect for human rights. We are now out of all the blacklists in terms of violations of human rights. Our army and our police are being signaled as an example of an army and a police that has adapted the policy of respect for the human rights of the citizens. So we are making tremendous progress in that respect.
What about the problem of illegal mining? Because I keep hearing that some of those that were involved in drugs are now turning to these mining ventures.
And that is true, because we have been very successful in hitting these drug cartels. We have no more big drug cartels in Colombia. Those cartels that the people were used to hear about, the all-powerful, in Colombia, they don't exist anymore. All of the drug lords, the big drug lords, are either dead or in jail. But the business still continues, because as long as there's demand, there's going to be supply. But we are hitting them very hard, and because the cost of doing business is going up, they have tried to find other sources of financing. One is illegal mining. We're having problems with illegal mining. We are working on that. We are implementing legislation, and we are coordinating with other countries that have similar problems. Ecuador has that problem, Peru has that problem, Brazil has that problem, Venezuela has that problem, and so we are cooperating among each other to be more effective, to fight what I call criminal mining, because not only that is a source of finance to illegal groups, but it also creates tremendous problems for our environment.
Does the world need to look at the whole issue of drugs differently?
Of course, yes. And I made that point, and I've been making this point for some time. That's why I proposed to the Summit of the Americas a new approach on this whole war on drugs that was declared here in New York in the United Nations 40 years ago.
And fought on your soil?
War that has not been won, war that has cost Colombia more than any other country in the world. We have paid more in this war on drugs than any other country. And we have the moral authority to tell the world, let's look at this problem in a different way, because there must be a more effective way than simply continue what we're doing for the last 40 years that has not achieved victory at all. So let's look at this with another optic, with a different approach, and fortunately, the world is responding.
Decriminalization, is that the answer?
Well, we don't have the perfect answer. We need to see what could be better, but so far, for example, treating consumption as a public health problem, that is something that there's almost unanimity around that. Decriminalize some of the steps of the chain in drug trafficking, and continue, of course, fighting the cartels and the criminal side of the whole business.
Venezuela. Can you tell us what relations are like between your two countries now, because they have been strained in the past?
Well, we have a very different approach to many problems, many issues.
He's very left-wing, you're a free market capitalist.
Right, but we respect our differences. That's something which is very important in any relation. Husband and wife, neighbors, or countries that are side by side like Venezuela and Colombia. We have a different approach on many issues, but we respect our difference and we work on those issues that where collaboration is needed or where collaboration will benefit both countries.
But do you worry about people on the other side of the border with their food shortages, their lack of toilet paper, soap? This is not the economic model you'd pursue.
No, it's a different economic model. And of course we worry because anything that happens in Venezuela affects Colombia. We have a border of 2,200 kilometers, very live border. And that's why if we can help to stabilize the Venezuelan economy, to stabilize the situation in Venezuela, we're trying to help promote a dialogue between the government and the opposition because if Venezuela does good, we benefit. If it goes bad, we will be also one of the victims.
The president of Venezuela and his predecessor, Hugo Chavez, say they're champions of social equality. That is still a problem in your country, is it not?
Yes, but we have improved a lot. In the last 4 years, we have reduced poverty by almost 10 percentage points. No other country in the region has achieved so much in such little time. We reduced extreme poverty by more than 2 million people. That's almost 5 percentage points of the population. And that result, of course, we have to continue because we still have too many poor people and too many people living in extreme poverty. But we are working on that.
The way some people saw your election campaign, which you won in the end, was two right-wing candidates, one pro the peace process, one against the peace process. Are you now the champion of the poor?
I am the champion of, and this is the vision for my country, peace, equality, and education. These are the three pillars of my vision for my country. They are interrelated. You cannot have a sustainable peace if you don't have more equality in our country. And the best way to reach that equality is through good education for everybody. So that's the vision that I have for my country.
We've talked about 50 years of bloodshed in your country. I'm not going to ask you to look 50 years in the future, but perhaps 10 years in the future. What is Colombia, if your plans go the way you say they're going to go, what is Colombia going to look like?
It's going to look like a very strong democracy with a very strong economy. Today, in the middle of this conflict, we have the best performing economy of the whole region. Our growth rate is the highest of all of Latin America. Our creation of employment and formal employment is the highest of all of Latin America. We have the lowest inflation. The investment rate of our economy is the highest of the whole region. And so we are the best performing economy in Latin America today. If we reach peace, every study, every analysis says that we will increase our growth rate by at least 2 percentage points per year, forever. So if we have a strong economy today in the middle of a war, can you imagine what this will be without that war, which has been like a chain that has stopped our development? And we have very ambitious plans. For example, in terms of education, we want to be the best educated country in the whole of Latin America by the year 2025. We want to eradicate completely extreme poverty by in the next 10 years, and I know we can because of the rate that we have been lowering it in the past 4 years. So we have some very high objectives, ambitious objectives, but I'm sure that we can achieve them if we reach peace.
President Juan Manuel Santos, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you very much. Thank you.